Hi everyone! Today I'm going to be reading the first chapter from The School Story by Andrew Clements, and then I have a fun activity prepared for us to do afterwards. So this is The School Story by Andrew Clements. Chapter 1. Fan number 1. Natalie couldn't take it. She peeked in the doorway of the school library, then turned, took 6 steps down the hall, turned, paced back, and stopped to look in the room at Zoe again. The suspense was torture. Zoe was still reading. The first 2 chapters only added up to 12 pages. Natalie leaned up against the doorframe and chewed on her thumbnail. She thought, what was taking her so long? Zoe could see Natalie out of the corner of her eye. She could feel all that nervous energy nudging at her. But Zoe wasn't about to be rushed. She always read slowly, and she liked it that way, especially when it was a good story, and this one was good. The Cheater by Natalie Nelson, page 12. I catch up with Sean between 82nd and 81st Streets. His legs are longer than mine, so I'm panting. I grab his arm and he stops in front of a bodega. He says, "Why are you following me?" "I have to talk to you." "Yeah, well, too bad. You had your chance to talk up during the penalty board hearing, and you didn't." "But if I told the truth, then the whole school would know I cheated. I'd get expelled." He just looks at me. "Well, you really did cheat, right?" "And I really didn't steal the answers, Key, you know." "And you know I didn't steal it because you did, right?" I nodded yes to all the questions. Sean is almost shouting now. His eyes are wild. "So first you steal, then you cheat, and now you've lied? And me? You've left me to take the punishment." The shopkeeper is worried. He moves from the counter to the doorway of the bodega, looking at us. Sean ignores him and gets right into my face, screaming, "Well, guess what, Angela? We're not friends now, and I don't know if we ever were." He storms away, hands jammed in his pockets, shoulders hunched, stabbing the sidewalk with every step. Me? I cry. Zoe let page 12 slip onto the table and then stared at it, deep in thought. "So what do you think?" Natalie was right behind her, and Zoe jumped 6 inches. "Geez, Natalie, scare me to death, and you ruined a nice moment, too." "But what do you think? Is it any good?" Zoe nodded. "I think it's very good." "Really?" Natalie pulled out a chair and sat down, leaning forward. "I mean, you're not just saying that because we're best friends, right?" Zoe shook her head. "No, I mean it. It's good. Like, I can't wait to read the whole thing. Can you bring back the rest tomorrow?" Natalie smiled and reached into her backpack. She pulled out a blue folder with a rubber band around it. "Here, I've still got to write about 5 more chapters. I just needed to know if the beginning was any good. But you can read what I've got done if you want." Zoe took the folder carefully and said, "This is great. Well, you are going to finish it, right? Do you know the whole story already, like all the way to the end?" Natalie said, "Not at all. Not all the way to the end, but almost. I know how the end feels, but not exactly what happens, at least, not yet." Natalie's book had begun by accident on the bus with her mom late one afternoon back in September. 6th grade was already 3 weeks old, and both she and her mom had settled into the routine of commuting together. It was a Friday afternoon, and they were going home on the 5:55 coach, thundering through the Lincoln Tunnel, from New York City to Hoboken, New Jersey. Her mom looked exhausted. Natalie studied the face tilted toward her on the headrest. It was a pretty face. Prettier than mine. Prettier than most, she thought. But there was little lines at the corners of her mother's eyes and mouth. Care lines. Worry lines. Natalie said, "Hard day, Mom?" Eyes still closed, her mom smiled and nodded. The editorial department met all day with the marketing department. All day. Natalie asked, "How come?" Sometimes she pretended to be interested in her mom's work at the publishing company, even when she wasn't, like now. Her mom said, "Well, the marketing people keep track of what kinds of books kids and parents and teachers are buying. Then they tell us, and we're supposed to make more books, like the ones that they think people will buy." Natalie said, "Makes sense. So what kind of books do they want you to make?" Hannah Nelson lifted her head off the seat back and turned towards Natalie. Here's a summary of a 6-hour meeting. Ready? Natalie nodded. Her mom used a deep voice that sounded bossy. People, we need to make more adventure books, more serious books, and more school stories. In her regular voice, she then said, That was it. A 6-hour meeting for something that could have gone in a 1-page memo or 3-page email. Then Natalie asked, What's a school story? A school story is just what it sounds like. It's a short novel about kids and stuff that's happening mostly at school. Natalie thought for a second and then said, You mean like Dear Mr. Hearshaw? Her mom said, Exactly. Then Natalie said to herself, Hey, who knows more about school than someone who's right there 5 days a week, 9 months a year? I bet I could write a school story. And that was all it took. Natalie Nelson, the novelist, was born. Or almost born. Her career as an author didn't officially spring into life about 4 months later, on that afternoon in the school library after Zoe read the first 2 chapters. Because it's the same book for every new author. Because it's the same for every new author, for every new book. Somebody has to be the first to read it. Somebody has to be the first to say she likes it. Somebody has to be the first fan. And of course, that was Zoe. So now after reading that, we can think back to the story, and Natalie's mom says, a school story is just what it sounds like. It's a short novel about kids and stuff that happens mostly at school. That made Natalie realize, who knows more about school than someone who's right there 5 days a week, 9 months a year? Who else would be able to write their own school story? So this made me realize you are all going to write your own school story. So in order to help you prepare for that, I made this worksheet, and this is going to be used as your brainstorming. So at the top it says My School Story. Under the author's name, you're going to put your own name. Now, before we get started onto this, we have to make sure that if you are using your real friends in a real scenario that happened, that's totally fine, but just make sure that it's appropriate and that it's nice for everyone so that there's no feelings getting hurt and no one feels like they're getting attacked in any way. If you have any questions about if you should write it or not, then you probably shouldn't, or you can ask. So you're going to be filling in the characters, the setting, the plot, the conflict, and the resolution. Now notice on conflict, if you feel like it's something going to be too controversial, then try to think of something else. Now if you want to access this worksheet, you just click here and it's going to be taking you to a Google Doc that you can just access and fill in if it's loading. So you can access this, you can fill in any of the information, you can print it out if you'd rather do that. And once you finish that, you're going to start writing on a piece of paper. So yeah, if you have any questions, you can just reach out. But happy writing, everyone. Good luck.